In the year 2093, monsters of unknown origins appear and begin to launch attacks on humanity, causing massive destruction to the world. As a result, the crime rate rose exponentially, and the world government was at its wits' end. The mass destruction continued for 2 whole years until a mysterious individual appeared. Presenting himself to be humanity's first hero, Zero, the individual single-handedly defeats all the monsters and arrests countless supervillains, putting the world back at peace. He gathers and discloses monsters and criminal intelligence to the public, and helps them understand their new world. As a result, humanity's band of superheroes grows endlessly, and the global crime rate and monster population dwindles. However, after restoring peace to the world, Zero vanishes into thin air. It's been 5 years since Zero vanished, and while walking along the street, Jilin thinks to himself about what the people would think if they found out that the hero who saved the world was chased out by his sister to get a job. He gets interrupted by loud music, which has also drawn the attention of most people outside. Shushen, a young handsome pop star who had stolen the girls' hearts, was performing with his team of superheroes. Suddenly, a group of angry delinquents show up and start shooting at them, putting the audience of mostly girls in pandemonium as they run for shelter. They seem to have a grudge against Shishen and his clan, so they charge towards them, only to end up being beaten to a pulp. Jilin cuffs up the leg of the leader with some exclusive high-class cuffs and tells him to stay put until the authority comes. It is revealed that Shishen, desperate for a promotion, staged the incident by hiring the delinquents and promised to pay them as long as they acted according to the script. The leader of the delinquents then felt betrayed because no part of the script stated where he'd get arrested. He does a 2-stage transformation and beats up Shishen and his entire clan. A random guy shows up afterward, proclaiming himself as his opponent. He introduces himself as John Chen and charges towards the delinquent with his high-powered reaction gloves. Due to his lack of experience, he gets blown away in the process. He gets up and charges back at the delinquent, who sends him flying again. The loop continues for a while until the delinquent gets bored and charges towards him with the intent of killing him. Jilin warns John Chen to run, but he tells him it is against his pride to leave a civilian behind and escape by himself. Upon hearing these words, Jilin gets moved, so he charges back at the delinquent, summons a mysterious weapon, and knocks him out with a single blow. Realizing that the man he was trying to protect was not just a civilian, John Chen then rushes towards Jilin and begs him to team up with him, claiming they'd make up the strongest hero squad in history. While the begging persists, Sharon Dong, the city's 3rd-ranked superhero, popularly known as Lady Winter Sorceress, shows up and approaches them to find out what happened in the area. John Chen proceeds to narrate the incident, saying he and his assistant had teamed up to defeat the notorious delinquent. She asks him who his assistant is, and that's when he realizes that Jilin has already left. Jilin gets back home and meets his sister arguing with a wealthy man who was trying to persuade her to marry him. She beats him up and kicks him out of the house. Jilin asks her why she keeps doing what she does, because this man isn't only wealthy, but tall and handsome as well. She replies to him that the only man she can ever love is Zero, and that no other man comes close to him. Hearing this, Jilin gets ticked off because little did she know that that same Zero she's fantasizing about happens to be none other than her brother, whom she always bosses around. By the thought he just had, she asks him if he has finally found a job, and he replies that it's not that easy to get a job. She then bursts out at him, yelling to her heart's content, only to get interrupted by a knock on the door. John Chen shows up and introduces himself to Jialin's sister, and states that he came to officially invite Jialin into his hero squad. Jialin tries to send him away, but he just convinces Lin's sister that becoming a hero would not only solve his unemployment issues, but will also attract a salary alongside the bounty awards he'll be getting as a hero. Without hesitating, she sells her brother off to him. Jialin tries to complain, but unfortunately, he has no say in the affairs, even though they're concerning his own life. He reluctantly submits. The following day, John Chen takes Jialin to the Heroics Association to register him as a hero. They stop in front of the statue of Zero and some other heroes around him. Not recognizing the other figures, Jilin asks who they are, and John Chen replies that they're the SS rank who fought alongside Zero and are all legendary figures. Jilin then thinks to himself that he doesn't remember fighting alongside anyone in the past. John Chen then proceeds to tell him about a bill proposed by the world government that ranks all heroes according to their combat abilities. He leads Jilin to a room to engage in a test that would determine if he could be registered as a hero or not. All that is required is to pass the test. He is handed over to a very huge man to conduct the examination, and the man states his requirements. All Jilin needs to do is last 3 minutes against him. Jilin stirs things up as he states that he's going to defeat him instead. The man laughs at Jilin's ignorance and gets ready to teach him a lesson. Jilin brings out his mysterious weapon too, and they charge at each other. The man launches a deadly attack, and Jilin blocks it efficiently. Seeing that his opponent isn't as weak as he thought, the man commends Jilin, saying he's the first to take on his attack unscathed. Jilin also commends him for launching such a powerful attack. The man then charges towards Jilin with tremendous speed to attack again, but Jilin escapes at the nick of time. Their clash goes on for a while until Jie-Lin gets bored and knocks out the mighty examiner with a kick. Seeing the undefeatable warrior lying unconscious on the ground, the other examiners apprehensively give him his full marks and instruct him to head to the next room for the written exams before running out of the room. Hearing that he still has to engage in the written exams, Jie-Lin gets flustered. He has never really been a fan of studying. The huge examiner wakes up in the hospital and sees Sharon Dong sitting by his bedside. She asks him if he remembers what happened, and then the memories of his fight start rushing through his head, leaving him in a more traumatic state. Dong says some nightmares are better left forgotten. She tells him that the newcomer is very strong and will at least be an A ranker, but unfortunately, there seems to be a problem. She hands him a script revealing the poor performance of Jie-Lin in the written exams, and he concludes that the newcomer is an idiot. She tells Adam to check Jie-Lin's answer to the last question, and he wrote that he quit being a hero a long time ago. The results of the written exams are displayed in the Heroics Association, and all the newcomers check to see if they qualify to be heroes. Zhan Chen makes fun of Jie-Lin for his poor results. He says even grade schoolers are smarter than him. Jie-Lin gets flustered and walks away. He follows after him, stating reasons why they should work together. He says heroes who left their mark on the world work together. They see a group of bullies picking on a hero candidate who wears glasses. The bullies get mad at the guy in glasses for stealing their thunder. He tells them that he did it to prevent people from getting hurt. One of the bullies grabs him by the collar and lifts him. Jie-Lin looks around and sees people minding their business rather than helping out. He gets angry and needs to take action. The bullies pester the glasses guy to resign from the Heroic Association, but he just gets flustered and yells that people like them aren't suitable to be heroes. They burst into laughter and tease him, asking if he only regards dead idiots like Zero as heroes before flinging him away. Jie-Lin catches him before he hits the ground, and Zhan Chen charges towards them to fight. One of the bullies catches Chen's fist and asks the rest where a brain-dead Zero fan came from. Chen says he'll only say what is on his mind once to the bully. He asks the bully to take back his words concerning Zero. Just as one of the bullies is about to hit Zhan Chen, Jie-Lin heads over with tremendous speed and blocks the attack. The bullies prepare for combat, but another candidate called the Spectre of Terror shows up and they storm away. The candidate who was being bullied a while ago introduced himself as Yan Qing and thanked them for their help. The rest of them introduced themselves to him while wondering who the mysterious fellow who was able to send the bullies running with just his preference is. He introduces himself as 13, an E ranker, while keeping a good distance from them. He tells them that it's been years since he has had a proper conversation with somebody, and that his only friends are characters from a video game that he showed them. Seeing the video game, Jie-Lin approaches him and reveals that he also plays the same game. Jie-Lin asks him to team up. Yanqing wonders if they are teaming up based on a magical girl contract. 13 asks Jie-Lin if he is sure about him joining them. He says it's the first time he has been invited to join a team. Zhan Chen agrees with the point, stating that someone who was able to scare away the D-Rankers bullies so easily could be of much help to them. 13 gets teary upon hearing all this, and he rejoices that he finally has teammates of his own after all these years. Qingyan asks him what his ability is, and he tells them he brings misfortune to everyone around him. Jie-Lin asks if he can curse his target, but 13 corrects him. He says that everyone around him ends up in misfortune. They freak out and immediately regret their action. 13 goes ahead to tell them about all the casualties he has brought to people around him while growing up, and that's why everyone calls him the Spectre of Terror while avoiding him. He goes on to state that the only time he got lucky was when he got rescued by Zero during the monster raid 5 years back, and ever since then, he decided that he wanted to become a hero like Zero. He then makes a demonstration of Zero's valorous fist and hits the main pillar supporting the building. His misfortune kicks in, and the pillar breaks, causing the building to start collapsing. Jie-Lin tries his best to rescue as many people as he can, but there are still a few casualties. On getting to the hospital, 13 finds out that Yan Qing was one of the people who got badly injured in the incident. He apologizes to him, but Yan Qing just tells him he'd appreciate it if he stayed away from him. Jie-Lin tells him that he shouldn't say things like that to his teammate, and that it was his fault they ended up meeting the Spectre of Terror in the first place. Listening to their conversation makes 13 uncomfortable, so he tells them not to worry, and that he'll stay away from all of them. Jie-Lin asks him what he's talking about, and he says he's going to have to decline his invitation to team up with them, considering the tragedies of his ability. Jie-Lin immediately rejects his offer, stating that he never goes back on his words, and Zhan Chen agrees with him, but gives the condition that they keep a safe distance between each other. Weeks after Yan Qing recovered from his injuries, the team members are seated in a room, then Zhan Chen walks in, holding a letter while laughing mischievously. Jie-Lin asks if it's a love letter, and it makes Zhan Chen sad briefly. He gets up and says what he holds is far better than any love letter. Zhan Chen announces that they have finally gotten commissioned as heroes. Jie-Lin and his teammates are on a mission to track down a criminal organization. 13 has been tracking them down for an entire week, watching their every step while Jie-Lin and Zhan Chen have been relaxing, doing nothing the whole time. On the other hand, Yanqing has been actively participating by assisting them with the development of the equipment they'll need to carry out the mission successfully. The criminal organization is about to engage in a transaction with another organization while testing their products, but they get interrupted by Yanqing and the others who introduce themselves as H-City's registered heroes. Jai Lin's team showed them their arrest warrant for the offense of engaging in transactions of illegal bioweapons. The organizations start attacking them with their guns, and Yanqing uses his teleportation ability to steal all their guns. The organization launches its bioweapon, which happens to be a gigantic slime monster, and gets it to start attacking the heroes. 13 tries to shoot it down, but his bullets seem ineffective against it. In the process, he feeds it something that makes it rampage more and attacks even the people controlling it. It pursues them afterwards, and 13 and Yanqing run to Jie-Lin for protection. Jie-Lin simply sends it flying with a strike from his mysterious weapon, then realizes he just sent the monster flying into the city. The monster lands in the city, causing a rampage while trying to feed on the citizens. Jie-Lin charges after it and begins to smash it to bits, but gets interrupted by Zhang Chen, who had just tried his best to keep up with his speed. Zhang Chen tells him that smashing the monster to bits is basically like spilling sewage water all over the street, and that he should leave it to him. Zhang Chen then brings out a plasma weapon he recently invented that can cleanse any object, no matter how dirty it is. He charges toward the monster with the boots which Yanqing developed for him earlier, but just ends up overspending and getting sucked up into the slime monster. Jie-Lin rescues him, but he just states that he malfunctioned because he forgot to adjust the speed of his technical boots. Just like he predicted, the short time he spent inside the slime with his weapon had already begun to have an obvious effect on it. Motivated, he charges towards the slime again, and for the very first time, he's able to maneuver his way while avoiding all the attacks launched by the slime while he charges for its head. Watching his comrade defeat a monster for the first time, Jie-Lin gets impressed and he leaves it up to Zhang Chen, who cleanses the city from the stench of the slime monster effectively. Arriving late at the venue, Yanqing and 13 meet the civilians praising Zhang Chen for saving them. Surprisingly, they are underpaid by the Heroic Association because Zhang Chen got mistaken for lowly abuse while trying to rescue a little girl during the cause of defeating the monster. Jie-Lin asks the girl for her name and about her parents, but she remains mute. They wonder where she's from and think about sending her over to the association. Someone rings their doorbell and is discovered to be Zhiren Dong, the Winter Sorceress. They let her in and she applauds them for completing the mission, but Jie-Lin just tells her to stop beating around the bush and go straight to the point. She agrees and confirms Jie-Lin's suspicion about her visit solely being a result of the little girl they had rescued. She tells them that a few years back, a corporation called the Gene Evolutionary Corporation started setting up organizations around the world under the disguise of providing for homeless children, but in reality, they were using all the children for experiments. She tells them that the little girl whom they had coincidentally saved is the sole survivor and the only successful sample of the corporation's experiments. Realizing that all the children who failed the experiment were killed, Jie-Lin asks what the heroes have been doing the whole while. He gets furious and emits a kind of radiation that restricts everyone in the room, including Zhiren Dong, the third strongest hero, from breathing. He then gets a grip on himself and apologizes for not being able to control his emotions. Zhiren Dong tells them that they have conducted several raids against the corporation, but they just kept getting away. She adds that in the process of their investigation, she has only recently stumbled upon the truth and that it turns out they've planted a mole within the organization, and it happens to be someone who sits in a very important position. The chairman of the Heroes Association, Ouyang Rui, is a spy for the Gene Evolutionary Corporation. Jai-Lin's sister freaks out when he suddenly calls her out to pick clothes for the little girl, and it takes a long while to explain to her that the little girl is a homeless orphan whom they coincidentally rescued during their mission. The rest of his teammates help him convince her that she has nowhere to go, and that's why they decided to take her in. Taking a closer look at the adorable little girl's face, Jie-Lin's sister gets mesmerized by her cuteness and rushes to hug her. She then agrees to go and buy clothes for the girl and suggests she treat her to a nice meal afterward. While they walk, Jie-Lin notices the presence of some people stalking them, so he asks his sister to go ahead with the little girl, saying the boys have some matters to attend to. She tells them not to wander away, and Jie-Lin tells her they'll be back in 5 minutes. While the girls head inside the building where they intend to buy the clothes, Jie-Lin and the rest of the boys prepare for combat with the stalkers. He then recalls Zhiren Dong's specific warnings about the safety of the girl. She told them that both the corporation and Ouyang Rui would do whatever it takes to get the girl back. She also told them to be careful because they would likely be sending professional killers their way to get the girl back. They lead the stalkers to a secluded area and then realize that they're the same set of bullies who were picking on Yanqing at the Heroic Association the other day. They ask them what their purpose is, and they state that Zhiren Dong, the Winter Sorceress, is currently on the association's wanted list, and that Chairman Ouyang Rui wants them all in for interrogation. Jie-Lin refuses their request, and the stalkers prepare for an actual combat. To their proposed advantage, the Spectre of Terror is absent, so they believe they're finally going to be able to show Jie-Lin and his teammates just what they're made of. They charge at them but get knocked down easily. The boys then remember they're not supposed to stay too long because Jielin's sister will be waiting for them, so they head back. On getting there, they meet her pissed because she has been waiting for them for a while. She presents the little girl in a cute outfit and gives her the name Moo. She beckons to her brother to let Moo stay with them at home, saying it's quite pitiful for a cute little girl like her to be homeless. Jielin tries to change her mind, stating that the little girl still has a pending case and it's not going to be safe, but she remains adamant and persuades him more by stating that he's a hero and is meant to protect them if things were to go sideways. Jielin has no choice but to agree to his younger sister's request, so he splits up with the rest of the guys who go ahead to carry out Dong's requests while he escorts the girls home. Mr. Ouyang gets flustered at the incompetence of the D-rankers he sent after Jielin and his teammates. He gets pissed as he wonders that he only sent them because all the competent rankers had already been sent after Dong. Another individual sitting across the room simply tells him to calm down, and that he has already made arrangements in advance to sort this issue out. A mysterious girl sneaks into John Chen's home and tries to attack him but falls victim to his advanced technology in the process. She mistakes him for a pervert and storms out of the house. While the girls take a shower, Jielin notices the presence of another spy, so he approaches the person. The spy charges at him, but is rendered powerless against Jielin, who just keeps knocking him out. The spy then injects himself with a berserker's serum, altering his physical appearance into a monster, and raising his level from A rank to S rank. He charges at Jielin, who cuts off one of the spy's arms with his mysterious weapon. The spy regenerates its arm and starts launching a continuous set of blows at Jielin, who gets excited and knocks him down with just a single blow. The spy starts regenerating as he keeps trying to anger Jielin, telling him that no matter how many times he knocks him down, he'll still get up and keep going after his sister and the little girl until they die by his hands. Hearing him blab about his family, Jielin gets pissed, and he uses a single attack that did not just destroy the entire mountain in front of him, but also disintegrated the indestructible body of the spy. Jielin gets back inside and he tells his worried sister he was just using the bathroom outside and that she shouldn't bother too much about him, which she complied with. He then recalls the information Dong gave him about Ouyang Rui and the corporation, and then he gets prepared for it. Jielin remembers his encounter with Adam. He looks at a pendant as he remembers the new teammates he formed and how their values are similar to his own. He believes that peace will be restored soon. At his home, Dong Shuer tells his teammates that Ouyang Rui will get in touch with the corporation that night. She believes that they'll need more help if they plan to take the bad guys out in one fell swoop. She introduces the Ice Fairy, Xiao Ye, an A-rank hero from B-City, to the team. She tells them that the Muscle Alliance will lend them a hand against Ouyang Rui. Their goal is to get their hands on the Berserker's serum. The serum is to be used as evidence that'll make the higher ranks of the association arrest Ouyang Rui. Dong Shuer says dire consequences will happen if they fail to retrieve the serum, and it gets into the market. Xiao Ye looks at Jielin's team and calls them a bunch of useless people. Jielin calls her shorty, and it makes her lose her temper. Xiao Ye dares Jielin to call her a shorty, and Jielin teases her some more. Dong Shuer tries calming Xiao Ye down, but Qing Yan whispers to Jielin. He tells Jielin not to make fun of Xiao Ye because she's just a kid. Xiao Ye explodes, kicks Qing Yan, and yells at him to shut up while calling him Four Eyes. Xiao Ye turns back to Dong Shuer and asks if she thinks Jielin's team can be counted on. Dong Shuer replies to her that Jielin probably is the only one in H City who is capable of penetrating Ouyang Rui's defenses. Jielin wonders what Dong Shuer means. Xiao Ye points at Qing Yan and asks Dong Shuer what Yan's usefulness is. Qing Yan angrily tells her as he struggles to get up that he is on the team just to make up the numbers. Xiao Ye is happy when she hears him and asks him to go home before calling him a burden. Qing Yan gets mad at her and refuses her plea. He says Ouyang Rui sold his information away. Yan plans not to let Ouyang Rui off for endangering his family. Xiao Ye sighs to Qing Yan and it bothers him, but Dong Shuer steps in and breaks their quarrel. She informs them that 13 has already destroyed the corporation's Paradise Island headquarters. She says that if they fail to assist 13, then they'd be doing him a disservice. Jielin calls Spectre of Terror a person who completed his mission with sheer luck. Xiao Ye accepts her fate and grumbles to Jielin. She says that he should be sure not to hold her back. Qing Yan looks at her with determination and says he'll show her what he is capable of doing. Dong Shuer sees Jielin's team and pictures Xiao Ye with them. She smiles after believing that the team is good enough to go against Ouyang Rui. She asks everyone to assist her in returning peace to their city, and they should work together to stop Ouyang Rui. The team raises their right hand into the air and cheers. At the venue, Dong Shuer uses her binoculars to view Ouyang Rui and some mercenaries, waiting in an open land for someone. Jielin is being made fun of by the men of the Muscle Alliance. They touch his muscles and comment on them being pink and hard. Jielin gets mad and shouts at them to stay away from him, but Dong Shuer tells him to keep quiet. Qing Yan sees a chopper and informs the team. The chopper lands and Ouyang Rui spots Mr. Gon inside the chopper and compliments him. The Muscle Alliance sees the meetups and charges to intercept them. Jielin joins them, and it makes Dong Shuer shout that she hasn't given them the signal. Qing Yan tries to complain about the men's behavior, but Xiao Ye tells him to hide and calls him a coward. Dong Shuer sighs that their sneak attack plan has been compromised. The Muscle Alliance charged at the men. Urang realizes that they have company and sends the mercenaries to take care of them. The muscle men and the mercenaries fight it out. Urang Rui sees Jie Yi walking confidently through the commotion while Mr. Gan and his escort jump into their helicopter to escape. Dong Shuier sees them and asks Xiao Ye to take care of the chopper. Xiao Ye, who flies above the chopper, uses her ice wings to make icicles that destroy the aircraft. Mr. Gan and his escort use a parachute to leave the aircraft before it explodes. Urang Rui calls Hunter to take care of Xiao Ye, and the hunter shoots her down. Qing Yan sees her wings break and runs in her direction. Dong Shuier stands by Jilin and speaks to Urang Rui. She says that he has managed to get Hunter on his side. She concludes that he did it with the power of money. Jilin asks her who Hunter is and wonders if he is very powerful. Dong Shuier tells him that Hunter's abilities are omniscience and bullet trajectory alteration. She calls him a top-class hero, but Urang corrects her and calls Hunter H-City's #1 hero. Dong Shuier orders Jinlin to deal with the people from the cooperation, while she holds Urang Rui back. Jie-Lin runs towards the crashed helicopter and sees Mr. Gon. Mr. Gon confirms Jie-Lin to be the one who took out Menace. Jie-Lin wonders who Menace is, but he gets attacked by Mr. Gon's escort. Jie-Lin evades her strikes and throws her back to Mr. Gan. Mr. Gan commends him for being very good. Zhen Xiao sees him and decides to join the fight. He fights the escort girl, and they head into the woods as they clash. Zhen Xiao calms down and predicts the escort girl's movement. He hits her on her back and it causes her to puke. Qingyan finds Xiao Ye in the forest and goes to her side. She calls him a burden and refuses his help. Xiao Ye senses Hunter and uses her ice to protect them from his bullets. She tells Hunter and says he should fight her fair and square. Hunter uses a stronger attack and she gets blasted backward, but Qing Yan catches her. He teleports to a tree and tells her to fire her icicles on his command. He points in the direction of Hunter and she immediately throws her icicles at him, hereby freezing him. Xiao Ye praises him and asks how he knew the precise location of Hunter, but he says that his calculation abilities are first-rate. Urang Rui asks if Dong Shuier thinks she can defeat him alone. She charges at him while saying that she'll put her life on the line to stop him. Dong Shuier envelopes her hands with ice crystals. She dashes at Urang Rui, but he creates metallic needles and hurls them at her. Dong Shuier parries his attacks and uses the dust as an opportunity to hit him. Urang's left hand is revealed to be covered in metal. He tells her that her current attack level cannot penetrate his armor. Dong Shuier dashes at him to face him in close-range combat, but he hits her with his armored fist. Qingyan smiles at his accomplishment, without realizing another figure lurking behind him. The figure traps Xiao Ye in an X-Force field, while Hunter appears and beats up Qingyan. Xiao Ye asks Hunter why he has the X-Force field, since it is a technology that is monopolized by the world government to lock up supervillains. Hunter calls it a gift from Urang Rui. He asks her how she feels to be slowly eaten up while her abilities have been sealed. He asks her if he should kill her. The female escort asks Zhen Xiao why she should surrender to him, and he tells her that it's a much better choice than working for a scumbag. She says he won't understand how humans are since he was born with a silver spoon. She attacks him and injures him. Urang Rui asks the already beat-up Shuren Dong if she regrets coming up against him, but she just spits at him and tells him that heroism never dies. She goes on to add that even if he kills her, there are still plenty of heroes who will take care of him. While he teases her for what she just said, she tries to use a sneaky attack on him, but he blocks it and hits her hard, telling her that she's going to need a more defined strategy if she intends on defeating him. The hunter, who had trapped Dong Xiao in his X-Force field, aims at her to fire a powerful attack while pinning Yan Qing to the ground. Urang Rui holds Shuren Dong by the throat and teases her for coming against him with a group of lackadaisical heroes. She pisses him off more by calling him a failure of a chairman. On the other hand, Mr. Gan, who is doing a good job standing his ground against Lin Ji, decides to switch things up, so he injects himself with a berserker's serum, leading to a two-stage transformation. He charges at Lin Ji at full speed and tries to knock him off, but Lin Ji just gets excited and engages in an exchange of destructive physical combat with him. After a while, Lin Ji switches things up and knocks down Mr. Gan with a single blow. He then pathetically steps on his face repeatedly to his heart's content and calls him a weakling. Zhang Chen gets up and still offers a negotiating hand to the female assassin. She tells him that she's not here to negotiate with him but to kill him. He tells her about how well his company treats its employees and about the fact that she wouldn't have to be working as a killer to earn that much, but she's hell-bent on not listening to him. He goes on to tell her that he's well aware that she was forced into that line of job and that she should accept his offer so he can show her a new life. She replies that he's just a perverted show-off begging to die by her blade and that she's not going to fall for his tricks. She then tells him that she'll continue living as long as she kills him. In response to her statements, Zhang Chen counters her by saying she's only delaying the inevitable and that the line of work she's threading on will not end well for her, but will eventually lead to her being killed too. He asks her if she wants to be saved, and she bursts in tears and surrenders to him. Yanqing is being beaten up by the hunter who still keeps Dong Xiao restricted in his X-Force field. She yells at him to let her out, but he silences her, telling her that the two of them will reunite in hell anyway. While he's being pinned to the ground, Yanqing brings out a treacherous explosive object in his defense, and the hunter retreats immediately. He throws it at the hunter, but the hunter deflects it and knocks him down again. The hunter tries to launch an attack at Dong Xiao, who has been screaming the whole time, but Yanqing teleports and interrupts the attack. The hunter gets pissed and he punches Yanqing severely, interrupting his plan to use another dangerous piece of equipment and knocking him out. He then tries to launch an attack on Dong Xiao, who is already beaming with rage. Dong Xiao goes wild and uses a cross-execution attack to defeat the hunter right there. Ouyang Rui notices the presence of hunter fading while still choking Xuerendong, and she tells him it's finally time for their counterattack. He mocks her and tells her to stop dreaming because there's no way she'd be returning home unscathed for what she did to him. She smiles and mocks him back for thinking she came without a plan, then uses her ice to freeze him up. He tells her to stop being delusional because something that level can't work on him, but she tells him it's only meant to keep him there for a moment. Lin Ji appears and sends Ouyang Rui flying with an attack from his mysterious weapon. He helps Xuerendong up, and they both tell Ouyang Rui that it was over and that he should surrender. Ouyang Rui staggers up to his feet and he tells them not to get cocky as he injects himself with a berserker's serum. He transforms into a powerful S-rank monster and starts firing a lot of long-range attacks at both of them. As expected, Lin Ji deflects the killer's attacks easily, shocking the transfigured Ouyang Rui. Lin Jie charges towards Ouyang Rui, who tries to block his upcoming attack, but still ends up knocked down by its impact. Shocked about the fact that someone could impact an injury on his impenetrable skin, Ouyang Rui staggers up and commends Lin Jie for his outstanding performance, and tells him that even though he's probably a fellow S-ranker, he's still not powerful enough to beat him. With much confidence in his speed and movement abilities, he charges towards Lin Ji with a fatal blow, but Lin Ji dodges it and teases him for being so slow. He gets pissed and keeps launching a series of attacks which are all avoided easily by Ji Lin. Lin Ji eventually gets bored of playing with him, so he grabs him and launches him into the air. He charges after him and hits him down to the ground with his weapon, knocking him out effectively. Xuerendong asks Lin Ji if he's an S-ranker, and he replies that he doesn't know because he has never had the chance to measure his power. They both regroup with Zhan Chen and the female assassin and celebrate their victory. Shortly after, Dong Xiao cries for help as she drags Yanqing's unconscious body towards them. Yanqing, who is bandaged up on a hospital bed, watches the news and yells out, because even though they were the ones that stopped the Gene Evolutionary Corporation, reporters leave out their names while reading the news. Dong Xiao, who has been standing beside him the whole time, tells him that the Ouyang clan is a really big organization, and if they had their personal information disclosed, the organization would likely come after them for revenge. She forces him to open his mouth and then starts feeding him. He asks why heroes always have to live in fear of revenge, and Zhan Chen, who happens to be in the same room but on a different hospital bed, replies to him that true heroes don't seek fame while being fed by Fei Wu, the female assassin he just recruited. Lin Ji walks into the room and asks how they're doing, and Zhan Chen replies that they're doing fine. Yanqing, on the other hand, states how jealous he is about the fact that Lin Ji is uninjured, but Lin Jie replies that he should be thankful he made it alive while teasing him about his condition. Lin Jie asks about Xuerendong, and Zhan Chen replies that they haven't seen her since the operation. Like a miracle, Xuerendong shows up at his back and asks if he misses her already after just 1 week. She proceeds to tease him more, saying if he likes her, he should go ahead and confess, putting him in a more uncomfortable situation. Dong Xiao asks her sister about what the clan said regarding them, and she tells her not to worry because the clan won't be taking any action against them. Xuerendong tells them that she realized after their last operation that they still have room for improvement, so she contacted the Hero Club to arrange for a training camp for them. Zhan Chen, Yanqing, and the others show their enthusiasm as they are in support of the idea, but Lin Ji tells them he's not interested because he's already strong and won't need any further training. Dong Xiao and the others yell at him that this is an opportunity people can kill for, but he still seems uninterested. He tells them they have no idea how lonely being a champion is, and Dong Xiao stirs up at him that he's getting cocky after defeating just 2 A-rankers, and that there are tons of people who could have done it better in other clans. Hearing her words, Lin Ji tells his teammates that they can't defeat him even if they all fight together. Of course, they take it as a challenge. They plan to carry out the challenge on the rooftop of the hospital, and they all, excluding Yanqing, who is still in a critical condition, surround him. He asks them one more time if they're sure about it, and they say they are. The 4 of them charge at him with tremendous speed, coming from each direction, but he dodges all their attacks easily. He then teases them for not being able to coordinate their attacks and asks them to do better. Dong Xiao charges towards him for close-range physical combat, but gets knocked off with a force so strong that Bu Feiwu has to catch her to stop her from falling off the building. Bu Feiwu and Dong then charge at him next with a set of highly coordinated attacks, and they manage to get him to move from the spot he was standing on. He commends them and tells them it's useless against him regardless. Dong smiles and uses an absolute suspension technique with her ice to confine Jie Lin. It's supposed to be an ultimate confinement technique, but Lin Jie destroys it with a single punch and knocks her out in the process. Bu Feiwu tries to sneak up an attack on him, but he simply knocks her out. He catches Zhen Chan trying to sneak away and gives him a good beating before walking out on them. Watching him walk away slowly, the beat-up teammates agree that Lin Ji is in a league of his own, and they agree to leave him be. Dong tells them to start packing because they'll be leaving for the training in the afternoon. She mentions that 13 will be coming too, and the whole team immediately come up with flimsy excuses that will be hindering them from going as they exit the rooftop. Lin Ji gets beaten up by his younger sister because he picked up a stray dog on his way back home. She yells at him that if he's going to pick something up, why can't he pick up money instead? She insists on throwing the dog out, but Mumu begs her not to. Of course, she'd be a demon to not get moved by Mumu's adorable eyes, so she agrees to keep the dog. She walks the dog to her workplace the following day. Her boss entertains some important guests who have brought Ouyang Rui's almost lifeless body to him to fix. He tells them Ouyang Rui has gone beyond the stage of recovery, and they end his life right there, saying they have no use for him again. They head out and meet Dong Yang, the successor to the Dong clan, at the door. Dong Yang apologizes for his sister's actions and beckons on them not to let it affect their relationship. The guests walk away without saying anything. When they take their leave, Dong Yang introduces a professor to the boss of the company and imposes a joint responsibility on them. He takes his leave afterward. With a couple of heroes, Lin Ji waits in the Heroic Association to welcome the rest of his teammates back from their training camp. He asks them how it went, and they complain that all their battles felt cursed because of the presence of 13. Dong comes close to Lin Ji and asks if he missed her, but he just tells her she's acting strange. The new chairman of the Heroics Association shows up and is revealed to be Dong Yang. He introduces himself with a short speech and thanks the audience for listening to him as he takes his leave. Dong approaches her brother and asks some questions about their clan, which he answers. He gets close to her and whispers something that makes her tear up. While he turns around to leave, Lin Ji and the others show up and approach him. He politely greets them and tells Lin Ji he has heard a lot about him while offering him a career position. Lin Ji rejects his offer and challenges him, calling him a hypocrite. Dong Yang gets pissed and uses a psychic ability that brings everyone in the room to their knees, leaving only Lin Ji who withstands the ability standing. Dong Yang keeps everyone in the room down on their knees with his psychic ability. Lin Ji gets fed up and cancels out his ability with a superior one, causing Dong Yang to retreat for his safety. Dong Yang tells Lin Ji that he's pretty strong, and it's no wonder why his sister likes him so much. Lin Ji tells him that if he has no other business with him, he'll be taking his leave, so he proceeds to check on his teammates. Dong confronts her brother and asks him why he did that, but he just yells at her for questioning his affairs. He thinks to himself while walking away that all he intended to do was give Lin Ji a little warning, and apparently, he seems to be more dangerous than he thought. Walking out of the building, Lin Ji and his teammates hold a discussion about how shady the new chairman seems, and about the fact that they think Dong is in trouble. He instructs 13 to keep an eye on the matter before receiving a call from his sister who had just performed an experiment on the dog, and was asking him to come over to take it home. Professional Muesli walks in on her and asks about the experiment, and she tells him it was successful because the dog can read and comprehend graduate-level materials. Shocked, he approaches the dog and confirms it to be true. She tells him that the dog didn't even need a transition phase to begin learning, and he asks if there are any physiological changes. She responds that all the indicators are at normal levels, and everything went perfectly well. Lin Wan then adds that all that is left are clinical trials to make the experiment a milestone in medical science. The professor seems impressed and praises her as he takes his leave. When the professor leaves, Long Wenfeng, one of the men who had been trying to propose to Lin Wan, shows up and tells her to escape, convincing her that the sponsors behind the lab are the Dong and Ouyang clans. She thinks carefully about it and thanks him for confirming her suspicion, but tells him she can't leave her boss behind as she ignores all his warnings and leaves. The man makes a phone call afterward and instructs the people on the phone to keep Lin Wan safe, no matter what. Lin Ji and John Chen walk towards Lin Wan's workplace while talking about the new chairman of the Heroic Association. Lin Ji suddenly notices something, so he charges towards a building and captures a girl who had been spying on his sister's working place. He then tells John Chen to use his secret weapon to purify the spy, which he complies with. They sneak up on the rest of the spies who happen to be at the top of a a nearby building and knock them out. Identifying them to be squad members of the man who used to propose to his sister, Lin Ji gets mad and says he's going to teach Long Wenfeng a lesson for spying on his sister. Reports about his spies being wiped out reach Long Wenfeng, and he wonders who the entity that could have wiped out his entire squad of elite A rankers is. Lin Jie and John meet up with Lin Wan, and Lin Ji hands her a necklace and tells her to press the button on it whenever she's in danger. She tries to tell him about the sponsors behind her organization, but stops herself so as not to drag him into the mess. She yells at both of them to take the dog home so she can continue her research, which they do. 13, who had been spying on Xuerendong, report back to Lin Ji that something is going on. Ouyang Zihao shows up in front of her mansion and tells her he came to check up on her, being his future wife. She talks back at him and he grabs her by the hair and flings her to the ground. He opens the door to his car and orders her to get in. Suddenly, Adam and the Muscle Alliance members show up and try to stop him, but immediately get surrounded by the group of robots who had accompanied Ouyang Zihao to Xuerendong's mansion. Ouyang Zihao then introduces himself and tells them he's her fiancé, which she agrees to. Xuerendong tells them it's a decision she made willingly, and that they should leave her alone, but the Muscle Alliance brothers are adamant and insist on using force to take her back, stating that a true man will never leave a damsel in distress. Ouyang Zihao orders the robots to start attacking, and the Muscle Alliance brothers put up a good fight against them. After a short while, the robots switch things up and beat them all up. The Muscle Alliance brothers keep getting up, but keep getting knocked down simultaneously. Xuerendong cries out that they should stop as she is being dragged into Ouyang Zihao's car, but he just tells her to keep quiet. The one-sided beating continues for a while, and Xuerendong keeps screaming from within Ouyang Zihao's car that they should stop. Suddenly, a bullet is fired from a distance at Ouyang Zihao, and he catches it in a split second. Ouyang Zihao flings the bullet towards the same direction, and it knocks down 13 from the tree on which he was spying on them. He commends 13 for keeping his presence hidden the whole time. He tries to fire a long-range air attack to kill 13, but Xuerendong tries her best to interrupt it. Pissed, he hits her hard because the attack only ended up injuring 13 fatally, instead of killing him. Xuerendong then begs him to let the others go, and that she'd do whatever he asks her as a result. Impressed, Ouyang Zihao agrees to her request and drives off with her, leaving the robots and the nearly unconscious people behind. The robots that were left behind try to eliminate 13, but get interrupted by Lin Ji, who saves him in a split second from the moment of impact of their explosive attack. Lin Ji brings out a mysterious sword and starts slicing up the robots one by one. Ouyang Zihao, who is driving Xuerendong away, gets alerted about the destruction, so he uses one of his technological devices to project what's going on to himself. He sees Lin Ji and identifies the sword with him as the Fire Spirit Sword. Realizing that the mysterious individual with the sacred artifact had come because of Xuerendong, Ouyang Zihao smiles, telling Xuerendong she's not as useless as he thought while he drives away. Lin Ji finds out that the Ouyang clan has captured Xuerendong and is about to charge after them, but is stopped by Zhan Chen and Yan Qing, who have also arrived at the venue. They tell him that their main priority currently is to rescue 13, who is already lying unconscious on the ground. Back at their headquarters, Lin Jie and Zhan Chen reveal their plan to go up against the Ouyang clan, but Yan Qing freaks out and gives them reasons why they shouldn't. He tells them that the Ouyang clan is one of the strongest clans in the entire district, and they have robots that are strong enough to single-handedly take out the entire Muscle Alliance. He goes on with more reasons they shouldn't go up against the Ouyang clan, but Lin Jie and Zhan Chen just tease him for being a coward. 13 shows up in the room and announces that he's going to be tagging along too, and Yan Qing is forced to submit. They can hack into the security systems of the Ouyang residence thanks to the mutilated dog's highly developed intelligence. Bu Feiwu, who worked alongside the dog to breach the security systems, shows them the ballroom where the engagement ceremony between Ouyang Zihao and Xuerendong is scheduled to take place. She tells them that due to the two clans' prestigious reputations, they've held her in a confined place to ensure the success of the ceremony. She goes on to tell them that the clan won't do anything to endanger Xuerendong's life before the ceremony, but she can't guarantee her safety afterwards. Hearing this pisses Lin Ji off more and he's about to take action, but the rest of his teammates calm him down, saying even though he's very powerful, to prevent casualties, they're still going to be needing a foolproof plan before attempting a step. Their strategy is revealed, and 13 is required to lead some people to cast a distraction by protesting against the clan, while Jielin, Yan Qing, and Zhan Chen are required to sneak into the building while the distraction is going on. On the day of the ceremony, Bu Feiwu disables the security system of the Ouyang clan residence, and the rest of the teammates act according to plan. The distraction goes well, and the others can sneak in perfectly. Dong Xiao, who is inside with her already dressed up sister, asks her if she's sure about the ceremony, and she responds that it's the will of their clan, so she has to proceed with it. A knock is heard on the door, and Ouyang Zihao walks in with another prestigious young man, whom Dong Xiao rushes to embrace. The man exchanges pleasantries with Dong Xiao as they both head out of the room, leaving Xuerendong and Ouyang Zihao alone in the room. Ouyang Zihao asks Xuerendong who the mysterious man with the legendary weapon is, but she doesn't respond. He angrily flings her on the bed and tells her he'll be getting the legendary weapon to himself while he walks out of the room. While walking into the building, Linji and his teammates meet Dong Xiao talking to the prestigious man. Sighting them, she asks them what they're doing there, but Yanqing is just jealous and rushes to separate her from the man, stating reasons why she shouldn't hang out with someone like him. Lin Jai and Zhan Chen just leave him behind while they continue their mission. They get to the room where Zheran Dong is being confined and meet some guards outside. Lin Ji is about to knock them out, but Zhan Chen stops him and tells him he wants to play the hero's part this time around. Lin Ji asks him if he's up to the task, and he says he'll go for it. He charges at the guards, and even though he's not able to knock them down, he leads them far away from the room they were meant to be guarding. Lin Ji walks into the room and meets Juren standing by the window. He compliments her for looking pretty, and she blushes, but tries to hide it. He offers her a hand to escape with him, but she rejects it. Confused, he tries to ask her what's holding her back, but she tells him it's none of his business, and turns to face the window back. She tells him she cannot leave because she has already promised her clan that she won't be causing any trouble. She appreciates his effort and tells him to leave her alone. Ignoring everything she has been saying, Lin Ji approaches her and tries to touch her. She tries to use her ice powers to attack him, but he stops it barehanded and tells her he's not leaving without her. She yells more at him to leave her alone, and that it's not like she matters to him, but he interrupts her, telling her she matters a lot. He tells her she's important to him, and that's why he came to save her. Besides, they shouldn't let the sacrifice of the Muscle Alliance brothers in 13 be in vain. She yells back and tells him that's exactly why he should be there. She talks about her sacrifice of agreeing with the ceremony so that no one else would get hurt, and Jinlin tells her not to worry, because there won't be any more sacrifices. He destroys the roof of the building with a single strike to prove his seriousness, and tells her to trust him. She then bursts into tears as she finally takes his hand. While Lin Ji walks out with Sharon Dong, he sees John, who has just been beaten up by a group of robots. He gets angry and is about to take revenge on them, but Ouyang Zihao suddenly shows up amidst the robots. Sharon Dong starts shaking in fear, but Lin Ji holds her hand to calm her down. Seeing his fiancée with another man, Ouyang Zihao badmouths her, calling her a shameless woman. He asks her what their clans will think of her actions, but Lin Ji cuts in that it's not manly for him to sacrifice a girl for the reputation of their clans. Ouyang Zihao bursts into laughter, asking him if snatching his bride is what he considered manly. They introduce themselves and Ouyang Zihao challenges Lin Ji to a fight, which he accepts. Ouyang Zihao is made to promise that he'll not come after Zhuaren Dong again if he loses, and he states his condition that Lin Ji will have to surrender Zhuaren Dong alongside his fire spirit sword if he wins instead. Zhuaren warns Lin Ji that Ouyang Zihao is the strongest among the young people in the whole clan, and that he shouldn't go up against him, but Lin Ji tells her he's not a weakling either, and that she shouldn't worry. At the venue for the official challenge between Ouyang Zihao and Ji Lin, the leaders of the Ouyang and the Dong clan are present. Zhan Chen and Yanqing are also present at the venue. Dong Xiao meets up with her sister and asks her what is going on. Zhuren Dong just tells her it's complicated and that she should get ready to watch the match. The conditions of the match are stated and the contestants are told to fight freely because the barriers around the venue will cancel out any stray attacks. Lin Jie brings out a different weapon, saying it'll be more than enough to defeat his opponent, and Ouyang Zihao takes up the challenge, saying he'll only be using a finger too. The battle begins, and Ouyang Zihao fires some long-range air attacks at Lin Jie, who deflects them easily. Lin Jie then charges toward Ouyang Zihao, and they go on with an exchange of physical combat for a while. It's an outrageous battle as they both show off their close combat skills, canceling out each attack from the other. Ouyang Zihao finally manages to gain some distance, and he fires hundreds of air bullets towards Lin Jie, who blocks them all and comes out unscathed. Through the dust created in the process of deflecting the attacks, Ouyang Zihao tries to sneak up an attack on Lin Ji, but Lin Ji is quick enough to change the tides and send him flying instead. Ouyang Zihao gets up and praises him for managing to land an attack on him. He puts more energy into the fight and tries to attack Lin Ji, but just gets knocked over again. While wondering what's going on, Lin Jie hits him with another powerful punch, which sends him flying and crashing into the ground once more. Lin Jie then finally uses his weapon to launch a dragon attack, which Ouyang Zihao tries to tank, but still ends up with a deep cut on his chest. Furious, Ouyang Zihao gets up and asks him if that's all he's got. He fires a highly destructive attack that is meant to disintegrate Lin Jie into pieces, but to his utmost surprise, Lin Jie is still standing unscathed. Lin Jie tells him to stop throwing dust around because if his clothes get dirty, he'll be yelled at by his little sister. Lin Jie easily lands a kick on Ouyang Zihao that sends him crashing into the nearby wall again, putting a smile on Xueren Dong and her sister's face. He asks Ouyang if he still has any more moves, or if he's done already. Ouyang Zihao, who is bleeding seriously, stands on his feet and yells that he's not stopping until one of them is dead. He laughs mysteriously while he brings out a forbidden scroll and throws it at Jai Lin. The scroll explodes with so much force that the entire arena disintegrates into pieces. Xueren Dong and Dong Xiao are only able to survive due to the protective barriers the two clan leaders used on them. Zhan Chen and Yan Qing, on the other hand, manage to protect themselves from the explosion, but are still left badly injured. Dong and Dong Xiao run toward the stage in search of Lin Jie, while the two clan leaders discuss Ouyang Zihao's incompetence in using the Forbidden Scroll in a situation like this. On getting to the stage, Lin Jie is nowhere to be found, but Ouyang Zihao, who has just gone through a two-stage transformation, is right there. Lin Jie suddenly reveals himself and apologizes for making them worry. He tells them to wait for him to round up his battle, and then they can all head back together. Seeing that Lin Jie survived his attack, Ouyang Zihao gets more furious, and he goes all out, using another destructive attack on Jilin. Lin Jie just easily cancels his attack and knocks him out with a single strike. Lin Jie approaches him and makes fun of him by taking hilarious photos of him. Happily, Dong runs towards Lin Jie to hug him, but the unexpected happens. Time stops. Dong Yang recalls how he has always had a dream to become like Zero, who was so dazzling and strong. He recalls the one time he saw Zero, and that's why he set up an entire research institute to achieve that kind of power. While Dong runs towards Lin Jie to hug him, time stops for a brief moment, and everybody in the world is brought to their knees afterward, except Lin Jie, who can withstand the power. Dong Yang, whose experiment had turned out successful in Professor Chin's research institute, shows up above their heads in a divine body with a bald head. He makes jest of the people kneeling and calls it their divine punishment for being so powerless. He laughs mischievously and tells the world to prepare to be ruled by him. There are still some eyesores he has to get rid of. He then points down at Lin Jie and tells him he's referring to him. He's still completely unable to peer into Jilin's mind, and it makes him feel uneasy. He tells Lin Jie that he truly is a man he cannot afford to underestimate. Lin Jie asks what he has done to the people, implies that he didn't do much, as he launches a tiger attack at him. Without moving an inch, Lin Jie tanks the attack, gets injured in the process, and it gets him angry. He yells that he's not a fake, and a light from the sky shines on him. The light is so bright that Lin Jie has to block it with his hand to see. Lin Jie then teases him that he's getting ahead of himself for thinking turning into a baldy and getting a little stronger. Angrily offers Lin Jie a last chance to either kneel or die, and Lin Jie stands his ground as expected. Tells him he's relieved he chose the answer he expected him to choose so he can use him as an example to prove to all creation that going against the will of a thing like him means death. He creates a series of tornadoes and sends them towards Lin Jie, who deflects them all and flews to meet him for a clash in the sky. While they clash in the sky, Lin Jie asks him what he counts as a beneficiary because he'll be throwing away his friends and family. He replies he needs nothing else but to manage the world and ensure that it functions according to his will. While still exchanging combat, Lin Jie asks him what comes next, and replies that under his rule, there will be no crime or strife left in the world. But Lin Jie still goes ahead to tease him that that's only going to happen because he'll be the only source of evil in the world. Fires an attack that hits Lin Jie to the ground and tells him he's sending him to hell to go and reunite with his beloved sister. When Lin Jie hits the ground, uses his mental erosion ability to get into his head and meets himself in a devastating void. He then sees Lin Jie glaring at him with some deadly eyes, so he cancels his mind operation immediately. Coming out of his mind, he's shocked to see that Lin Jie has already transformed into none other than the greatest legend of all time. He had transformed into the hero, Zero. Filled with disbelief and refusal to accept what was unfolding before his eyes, renders some powerful attacks towards the prodigy, and they all get cancelled with an attack that nearly takes the life. Zero says to himself that he has gotten rusty as expected, from not using his powers for a long time. Tells him not to get ahead of himself as he uses a magnification attack and tries to smash Zero to the ground. Zero dodges it easily and uses an attack he claims he hasn't used since forever to blast. He tells to surrender, but refuses and still tries to hold his ground. Zero then fires like attack, which after uses all his energy to deflect to the sky, causes a massive destruction to the solar system. Zero uses another similar attack to knock him down on his back, rendering him powerless. He then cuts through the fabric of space and stands in front of, telling him that the world is more complicated than he thinks. He tells him that he cannot use power to resolve all the problems of the world while pointing his legendary sword at him. At the end of his speech, Zero uses a mysterious attack that burns from the inside out with a form of black fire. Zero absorbs the powers into his sword, and then transforms back into his human form. Dong Yang, who is still lying on his back, and tells Lin Jie that just as he expected, his strength pales in comparison to Lin Jie's. Lin Jie asks him if he remembers why he started seeking power, and he is left speechless. Lin Jie proceeds to tell Dong Yang that he's very powerful, but yet still fails to save the one person he wants to save. Coming back to the realization that heroes were meant to save people, Dong Yang laughs at himself for failing as a hero, saying things finally become clear when one is on the verge of death. He proceeds to tell Lin Jie that all he wanted to do was create a world without crime or slaughter, and to do that, he needed to become the most powerful person in the world. He adds that at some point in time, he started to stray further and further away from his path until he found himself becoming the greatest evil in the world. He struggles to sit up, and he asks Lin Jie how he is so strong. Lin Jie simply takes off his shirt, revealing numerous scars on his body. He narrates the stories of the battles behind how he got each scar, and Dong Yang is shocked at each of them. He adds that luckily for him, his face and hands have remained unscathed. making it possible for him to keep it hidden, considering he doesn't want to worry his little sister. Dongyang agrees with him that it's a miracle he manages to survive all those battles, and agrees that that's how he became so powerful. Jielin adds that after all, no one could imagine what he went through for 5 years. Dongyang asks him about the person he failed to save, but he says he doesn't want to talk about it. As Dongyang begins to disintegrate into pieces, Lin Jae tells him he has one last request, and he asks the to stop calling him Zero, because he quit being a hero a long time ago. Dongyang asks him why he decided to be a hero, since he said he quit. Jielin says he can't wrap his hands around it. As Dongyang turns to dust, he says he can't believe that he'd lose to someone like Jielin. Jielin watches him dissolve completely and asks a rhetorical question. He says the slash he inflicted upon Dongyang is redemption. Lin Wan wakes up outside the crashed research institute and meets her brother sitting next to her. She asks him what he's doing there, and he replies by saying that no big brother can sit still when his little sister is in trouble. He asks her why she didn't use the pendant he told her to use when she's in danger, and she says she didn't want to put him in danger. He replies to her saying he's a registered hero and is very powerful, so she shouldn't do what she did again. He forces her to promise that she'll call him whenever she's in danger from now on, and she agrees to it reluctantly. Lin Ji stands in front of the seaport and stares at the sea while recalling how he met Xueren Dong and everything they've been through together. He recalls how they went from strangers to people who can rely on each other in just a couple of months. In a short while, Xueren Dong joins him to admire the view of the sea. He asks her if she's leaving, and she tells him she has already bought the tickets. He asks her if she's sure about the idea of going to teach at the Hero Academy of a different district, but she just teases him, saying he was the one who told her to do whatever she wanted. She tells him she has one last thing to do before her departure, and she kisses him before bidding her hero farewell. Drones fly around a deserted island. On the island, there's a prison with maximum security. Inside one of the heavily guarded rooms, a prisoner with a mechanical right arm laughs. He says repeatedly that he can feel Zero's presence. He concludes by sensing the strong wave of energy created by Zero,